the Super NES was getting a bit overloaded with one-on-one fighters, as were many other systems, thanks in large part to the popularity of Capcom's Street Fighter II. And this of course meant you could find some real gems, and you would of course find some real duffers. And Tuff-E-Nuff is one of those duffers. My opinion of the game is knee-high to a grasshopper, and that differs somewhat from reviews in magazines, which mostly gave it a positive response. And that's fine, as everyone is entitled to their opinion, and so I will express mine in this video. The game was released in 1993 by Jaleco, and in the 80s, Jaleco were a pretty decent game developer, but in the 90s they went downhill rapidly and produced more rubbish games than good ones. This game can be played with 1 to 2 players. The game starts off with only 4 characters, but a boss code can unlock the other 7 characters. The game has 3 modes: story mode, 1 player to CPU mode, and multiplayer mode. The fighting system is based on buttons, 2 for kicks and 2 for punches, similar to Turtles Tournament Fighters. All characters have at least 2 special attacks. In all modes, the more life anyone loses, the more bloody the character's faces become, much like in SNK's Art of Fighting series. And that is all it has in common with Art of Fighting. The visuals are so incredibly flat and bland, but when seen on demo at CA Games, I thought it had this kind of Fist of the North Star influence, with all the crumbling buildings and desolate backgrounds in the distance. But when I seen the name of the game, I was confused. In Japan it was called Dead Dance. What an incredibly crappy name for a fighting game. Dead Dance? Sounds like a horror spoof of Flashdance or something. The other thing I noticed was that this pause that happens with each hit. But what in the blue hell is that all about? This is a fighting game, but your onslaught of attack is thwarted by this pause? I cannot imagine the idiot who suggested this at the developers meeting. Who thought pausing after each attack would be a good idea? But instead of shooting that idea down, somebody must have said, pausing? Good idea. No, it just isn't. But there was one thing that was hard to ignore, and that was the reviews in the magazines, who, as I said, rated the game favourably. And when I got the chance to pick it up second-hand copy for £10, I thought to myself, what the heck? It must be worth a tenner surely. Was it buggery? At home, the visuals looked a lot worse than they did on the small 14-inch TV at CA Games. And by the way, I picked up the US version and thankfully the name was changed to Tuff-E-Nuff, which is still a crap title. But it was a lot better than Dead Dance. Dead Dance. Come on. The game has this rather long and boring and completely drawn out intro with the storyline. Yeah, who cares about that? Ain't nobody got time for any of that nonsense in a fighting game. I guess Jaleco were trying to give some kind of backstory. There is a story mode in the game, so it did fit in, I suppose. And once you skip this and go through the character select, the game starts to pick up slightly. I do like this character select screen. The avatars at the top are fairly large and look pretty good, with the fighter appearing in front of their lit up name. Kudos to Jaleco there, as compared to other character select screens, this was fairly novel. The inbout visuals are devoid of colour, really. The backgrounds lack any real kind of animation or detail. Really, they look pretty rubbish. The fighters are not great. The animation is pretty stiff, that's probably the best word I could use. They walk around like they're getting early onset of rigor mortis or something. The sound is horrible. The sounds of the attacks sound muffled, like when the Sopranos shot someone through a pillow. The music sounds like it's from an 8-bit machine, and the speech is very quiet and indecipherable. But by far the worst thing about this game is the gameplay. I just couldn't enjoy the game. The pausing of the attack really did mess with my mojo and rhythm of attacks. I cannot figure out why this was included, but it just adds the terrible icing onto a dreadful game in my opinion. With that being said, I would always struggle to build up a collection of Super NES games, as they were so damned expensive. And as much as I hated this game back then, I did play it for a bit as I had nothing else to play. Well, nothing new anyway. And weirdly, a mate of mine seemed to like it immensely, but then I did struggle to find a game he didn't actually like. And his favourite thing about this game was the replays, believe it or not. I couldn't see the appeal personally, but he was impressed with this small feature. And when he started to explain his reason for this, I still wasn't convinced, but I did understand why he liked them. He had always reasoned things like continue passwords were like hacking the game code. The sequence of numbers and letters would determine life, energy, progress, money, score, etc. And so the password would be entered as a routine in the game code, and when executed, this is how you kept all your scores. But the replay feature could not operate like that. There are too many imponderables, he said, to have a routine play the exact same fight pattern, life, score, position, everything. So he explained that the game must keep a small amount of memory aside for this feature, and that this explains why the game looks and sounds as bad as it does. It needs extra memory to keep those 5 or 6 seconds of the fight routine in its memory. I just remember giving this blank, devoid of all interest look and saying, "Have you been smoking crack again? It's crap. It's a crap game, and a replay feature is not a good reason enough to buy it." Having said that, I offered to sell it to him for £15, and he said it was only worth £5, and he wouldn't even give me £5 for it. But we did play a few versus battles, and did enjoy beating the 7 shades of Shinola out of each other. But even he conceded after that session that the game was very average and that I shouldn't have bought it. At the time of this game's release, the Super NES was well catered for with versus fighters, but not one came close to the greatness of Street Fighter 2. And so, for a developer to release a half-assed game like this just seemed like An incredibly silly decision in my view. And not only that, who the hell calls a fighting game Dead Dance? Cue some Gordon Ramsay expletives right here. That was my look back at Tuff-E-Nuff, and my advice is just to stay well clear of it. You will thank me someday, I swear. If you liked this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your nightmares with Tuff-E-Nuff. And a massive thank you to all those who have subscribed and commented on my channel. Your feedback and support really does go a long way in helping the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of your contributions. So it's a massive thank you from me. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching. Dead Dance? What the f-